In our modern world, truth has become synonymous with measurable facts. Atheists and materialists often champion the idea that only what can be verified scientifically is of value, leaving religious narratives relegated to the realm of fantasy, or worse, fraud. The demand for empirical evidence has created a chasm between faith and the modern worldview, with believers often finding themselves on the defensive. But what if truth is not as singular as it is often portrayed? What if symbolic truth, a truth embedded in narrative, holds just as much power and meaning as empirical truth? And what if the divine, far beyond the grasp of material measurement, can only speak to us in the language of story? Materialism places great faith in the observable universe. It insists that what cannot be measured does not exist, or, at best, is unimportant. Yet even within the sciences, the limits of knowledge are glaring. Quantum mechanics, the multiverse theory, and the mysteries of consciousness all point to areas where measurable truth remains elusive. The very foundations of existence, questions such as, why is there something rather than nothing, continue to defy definitive answers. If the quest for truth is already fraught with uncertainty in the scientific realm, why should religious faith be condemned for its lack of empirical evidence? The materialist worldview often dismisses religious narratives as irrelevant or untrue because they cannot be tested in a laboratory. Yet this dismissal ignores a deeper layer of human experience, our intrinsic need for meaning, purpose, and connection. These are realities not easily weighed on a scale, but they are no less vital. Religious narratives operate on a different axis. They are not concerned primarily with the measurable, but with the meaningful. Symbolic truth speaks to the human condition in ways that cold, hard facts cannot. It does not seek to describe the molecular composition of water, but to evoke the feeling of being immersed in a river. It is less about proving and more about revealing. Consider the nativity story, often dismissed as mere myth. Skeptics demand to know whether there was really a virgin birth, a guiding star, or a manger scene. But to reduce the story to a historical investigation is to miss the point entirely. The Nativity is a profound narrative about humility, hope, and the divine entering into the vulnerability of human life. Whether or not every detail is historically accurate is secondary to the symbolic truth it conveys. That God is with us, even in the humblest of circumstances. Symbolic truth is not lesser than empirical truth. It is different. It is the language of poetry, metaphor, and story, forms of expression that have always been central to human understanding. They allow us to grapple with the ineffable, to explore the mysteries of existence that science cannot quantify. If God exists, how could the divine possibly communicate with humanity? The divine, by definition, transcends our finite comprehension. It cannot be contained within the bounds of human reason, let alone empirical measurement. To reach us, then, the divine must adopt a form we can understand, a narrative form. Humans are, above all, storytelling creatures. We make sense of our lives through stories, whether they are personal memories, cultural myths, or scientific theories. It makes sense, then, that the divine would choose to enter into human history through a story. The incarnation, God becoming a character in the human narrative, can be understood as a profound act of accommodation. It is not about proving the divine through measurable facts, but about revealing the divine through the language of human experience. This is why religious folk cannot and should not compete on the grounds of empirical truth alone. The divine does not belong in a laboratory. It belongs in the realm of meaning, where narrative becomes the bridge between the infinite and the finite, the eternal and the temporal. Atheists often criticize religious people for clinging to beliefs without evidence, yet they fail to recognize the limitations of their own evidence. Materialist arguments are grounded in assumptions about reality that are themselves open to scrutiny. The reliability of human perception, the subjectivity of scientific interpretation, and the biases inherent in human reasoning all undermine the certainty of materialist claims. Moreover, materialism often neglects the rich, layered dimensions of human experience that cannot be reduced to data points. By demanding that religious narratives conform to empirical standards, materialists miss the point of those narratives entirely. Faith is not about proving, it is about participating. Religious stories are not historical documents to be dissected, but symbolic landscapes to be inhabited. As Christmas approaches, the nativity story comes under scrutiny once again. Critics argue that it is just a story, implying that its lack of historical evidence makes it meaningless. But perhaps the very fact that it is just a story is its greatest strength. The nativity invites us into a world where the divine embraces the human condition, where hope is born in the midst of darkness, and where the ordinary becomes sacred. These truths are not measurable, but they are deeply real. The nativity story is not meant to be a historical account. It is a symbolic truth that speaks to the heart of what it means to be human, our longing for connection, and our belief that the divine is not distant but intimately present. To dismiss it as just a story is to dismiss the very fabric of human meaning-making. Religious folk are often told they must provide evidence for their beliefs, yet they are not playing the same game. Empirical truth and symbolic truth are not competitors, but complements. One tells us how the world works, the other tells us why it matters. To reduce existence to measurable facts is to strip it of its depth, its beauty, and its mystery. Symbolic truth is not a lesser truth. It is the truth that gives life meaning. It is the truth that allows us to see the divine in a story, to encounter God in the narrative of a manger, and to live our lives with a sense of wonder that no empirical evidence can provide. For those who believe, the story of Christmas is not about proving God's existence, but about experiencing God's presence in the only way we truly can, through the story of our narrated lives.